This was a piece written by Kevin Barrett of Veterans Today. And it has all the hallmarks of factionism. And he said, in the year 1666, the whole Jewish world went crazy. Of course, that was also the year of the Cescavie Act, as well as the Great Fire of London that preceded it. Coincidence? And he said a manic depressive madman named Sabbatai Zevi, aided by his PR lackey Nathan of Gaza, had declared himself the new Messiah. And he said history hadn't been kind to the Jews, their self-image as God's chosen, destined to rule over the Goyim cattle, clashed with messy reality. Persecuted here, expelled there, despised everywhere, Jews felt themselves a nation in decline. Many were ready to follow a mad Messiah who promised to make Israel great again. As the Sabbatian frenzy swept through Jewish communities across Europe, North Africa and the Middle East, establishment rabbis were powerless to contain it. Jews abandoned their businesses, sold their belongings, and did so much masochistic penance at the price of nettles soared. Those who could afford to buy tickets for the Holy Land. This was Zionism 1.0, and it set the tone for future iterations. Fast forward 350 years to 2016, another psychologically unbalanced individual, a certain Donald J. Trump, crowned himself with a red baseball cap and declared himself the Redeemer who would make America great again. Like Zevi's, Trump's madness found an audience. Like Jews in 1666, white male Americans in 2016 were starting to feel like persecuted members of a nation in decline. The factual evidence of that decline was from 90+% to 60% in under 100 years, Mr. Barrett, which points directly to that concern being correct. True to, and like Zevi's proto-Zionists, Trump's MAGA hat-wearing lemmings followed their leader into madness, abandoning critical thought and embracing what more sensible people could see was a bizarre mythical delusion. Most obviously, both had good pro-pagan Dartists. Zevi was a nobody until Nathan started promoting him, while Trump built his political empire with the help of an army of flacks hired by a MAGA nation's fake alt media. But even good pro-pagan Dartists need a viable product, and Zevi and Trump were both obviously clinically insane. Fortunately for their flacks, both suffered from mental illnesses tailor-made for selling them as false messiahs. Zevi was a manic depressive who, in his manic phases, did madly transgressive things. But according to Nathan, Zevi's crazy criminal behavior was exactly what you'd expect from a messiah. The whole point of being a messiah, Nathan said, was to abolish the law. Sounds like something Giuliano might say in defense of Trump. Jews who are probably sick of obeying every last petty aspect of Jewish law ate it up. A world with no more law, in which Jews could rule over the Gentile cattle the way God intended, sounded damn good to them. Trump's unique brand of craziness likewise played on the fantasies of his audience. Like Zevi, Trump broke rules and got away with it. Funny that. Yet despite several investigations and impeachment trials, they found no evidence of such rule-breaking. But don't let the facts get in the way of your agenda. Mr. Barrett. This is another of the Jewish-led narratives against the whites, thinly disguised as reverse propaganda. Whitewash a load of other people. People like us who think can see through your games. Many working-class Americans, he said, fantasize about living lives of egotistic opulence while flouting the rules. Through Trump, or rather their image of Trump, they could vicariously live out their fantasies. No, Mr. Barrett, actually many working-class white or otherwise would like enough food on the table and a ruddy house to put the said table in. That is the reality. He rambled on. Like Zevi, who rumour had it married a prostitute and invited acquaintances to enjoy her, Trump is said to have married a model trafficked from Eastern Europe and to have led a dissolute life in many other aspects, as Roy Cohn and Katie Johnson could attest. Another fatal attraction, both Zevi and Trump are satanic egotists, narcissists who demanded that people worship them instead of God. Zevi changed liturgies so Jews would stop worshipping Yahweh and start worshipping Zevi. Neither are worth worshipping. He was a self-styled Antichrist who consciously stole the man as God motive from the Christians and applied it to himself. Trump too invited worship of himself and was always the foremost and most enthusiastic member of the congregation. Finally, one can't help but notice that Zevi and Trump were both crazy Zionists. There may be an element of truth in that. By that I mean, he said, that unlike sane Zionists, pardon the oxymoron, Zevi and Trump had complete faith in their own ability to madly defy common sense, geopolitical and historical reality, and the existence and independent volition of the people of the Muslim East, and unilaterally will the supreme success of Greater Israel. Zevi's message to the Jews said, "Come to the Holy Land. I am now king of the world, and the Ottoman Sultan is about to surrender to me, so we Jews can subjugate and enslave the Goyim cattle and retire in splendour and let them do all the work," which quickly collided with reality in the form of the Sultan himself. Now Zevi was brought before the Sultan, who said, "If you are the Messiah, my executioner's arrows won't hurt you. If you aren't, you're an impostor who deserves death." Now Zevi's quick-witted response was a nominal conversion to Islam. Oh my. Just like the Don May. The Sultan, who found Zevi mad but charming, treated the new convert with proverbial Muslim mercy and compassion, revoking the death sentence and appointing him to a high position with a good salary. Zevi's followers, like Trump's today, were crestfallen. Like followers of QAnon, Zevi's cultists, the majority of Jews in 1666, had been dreaming up all kinds of unlikely scenarios purporting to explain why the Messiah, who was going to put everything right, couldn't seem to do so. In spite of Sabati's apostasy, many of his adherents still clung tenaciously to their belief in him, claiming that his conversion was a part of a messianic scheme. Likewise, there are still Q followers out there who believe Trump is still going to pull some kind of miracle out of his rear end, magically beam himself back into the White House, arrest the satanic pedophile elite, execute Biden and Hillary, and help America live happily ever after. 50 years after Zevi died in 1676, his self-proclaimed reincarnation, Jacob Frank, the Frankists, rebuilt his satanic Zionist cult and elaborated on Zevi's doctrine of redemption through sin. Will a madman who thinks he's the reincarnation of Donald Trump similarly revive QAnon during the final years of this century? Stranger things, as the story of Zevi and Frank and the creation of modern Israel shows, have happened. This piece, though correct in part, is a reverse psychology speech written by the faction-based group known as Veterans Today. Now, the confusing aspect is why, in part, he criticises the Jews and then supports them. Why? Because there is two factions of the, quote, Jews, unquote. One, the Rothschilds clan, and the other, the Black Sun group. And I know this confuses some of you, differentiating as people think the Jews are all one. They're not.